The space station floated in the darkness like a silver flower blooming among the stars. Harmony 7 was the largest meeting place in the known galaxy, where species from 100 different worlds came to talk, trade, and sometimes fight. Today, it was hosting the most important meeting in human history. Una pressed her face against the window of the transport ship, watching the station grow larger. She was 26 years old, with short black hair and nervous hands that she kept folding and unfolding in her lap. This was her first real assignment as a diplomat for the United Earth Coalition, and she was terrified. "Stop fidgeting," said Director Hannah, the senior diplomat sitting beside her. "You are representing humanity. Act like it." "Yes, ma'am," Una said, but her hands kept moving. The transport docked with a soft thump, and Una followed the delegation through gleaming corridors. Aliens of every shape and size walked past them. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some floated. Some crawled. Una tried not to stare, but it was difficult. She had grown up on Earth, in a small apartment in Busan, dreaming of the stars. Now she was walking among them. The human delegation was small. Only 12 people compared to the hundreds that other species brought. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. They were babies in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations. Most species looked at humans the way adults look at children playing with dangerous toys. Today's meeting was with the Valari Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The Valari had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. They had technology that seemed like magic. They had conquered dozens of worlds. And they had very little patience for young species like humanity. Una had studied everything she could about the Valari. They were tall and slender, with silver-blue skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. Their eyes were large and dark, without any white parts, like pools of ink. But their most remarkable feature was their sense of smell. Valari could smell things that humans could not even imagine. They could smell emotions. They could smell memories. They could smell the history of a bloodline going back generations. To a Valar, every person carried a unique scent that told their entire life story. The meeting hall was enormous, with ceilings so high they disappeared into shadow. The human delegation took their seats at a long table, facing an empty space where the Valari would soon appear. Una sat in the back row, behind the important diplomats. Her job was simple: take notes, stay quiet, and try not to embarrass humanity. Director Hannah whispered to the group. "The Valari consider themselves superior to us. Do not argue with them. Do not challenge them. We need this trade agreement. Humanity needs their medical technology. Millions of lives depend on these negotiations." Una swallowed hard. No pressure at all. A door opened on the far side of the hall, and the Valari delegation entered. They moved like dancers, each step graceful and precise. Their silver-blue skin caught the light, making them glow softly. They wore flowing robes of deep purple and gold. The colors of their royal house. At the front of the delegation walked a young woman who made everyone else look ordinary. She was perhaps Una's age, or maybe much older. It was hard to tell with Valari. Her silver-blue skin was flawless, her dark eyes sharp and cold. She carried herself like someone who had never been told no in her entire life. "Princess Solhe," Director Hannah whispered. "Youngest daughter of the Valari Emperor? They say she has never smiled. They call her the Ice Princess." Una watched the princess take her seat at the head of the Valari delegation. Her face showed nothing. No warmth, no curiosity, no emotion at all. She looked at the humans the way someone might look at insects. The negotiations began, and Una started taking notes. The Valari wanted human art and music, which they found fascinating. Humans wanted Valari medical technology, which could cure diseases that killed millions every year. It should have been a simple trade, but the Valari were not interested in simple trades. They wanted human art at prices so low, it was almost stealing. They offered medical technology so basic it was nearly useless. The human diplomats tried to negotiate, but every offer was rejected with cold politeness. Una felt her heart sinking. This was not going well. Then something strange happened. Princess Solhe suddenly stopped speaking. She was in the middle of rejecting another human offer when her words died in her throat. Her dark eyes went wide. Her silver-blue skin seemed to pale. For the first time, emotion crossed her face. She was staring at the back of the room. She was staring at Yuna. The entire hall went silent. Everyone turned to look at the junior diplomat sitting in the last row, the nobody with nervous hands who was just supposed to take notes. Princess Solhe stood up slowly, as if in a dream. She stepped away from her delegation, ignoring the confused whispers of her advisors. She walked across the hall, her eyes never leaving Yuna's face. Yuna's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. What had she done wrong? Had she broken some Valari custom? Was she about to cause an interstellar incident? The princess stopped directly in front of her. She leaned forward and inhaled deeply, her nostrils flaring. She was smelling Yuna, her dark eyes filled with something that looked almost like pain. "You," Princess Solhe whispered. Her voice trembled. The ice princess, who had never shown emotion, was shaking. "That scent. I know that scent. It has haunted me for 15 years. Yuna could not speak. She could barely breathe. "Where did you get that scent?" The princess demanded. "Who are you? Who is your family?" "I am Yuna," she managed to say. "My father was a salvager. His name was Taiho. He died 5 years ago." Princess Solhe closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her silver-blue cheek. "Ho," she repeated like a prayer. "After all this time, I finally know his name." She opened her eyes and looked at Yuna with an expression that was completely different from before. The coldness was gone. In its place was something raw and vulnerable and very, very human. "Your father," the princess said, "saved my life, and I have been searching for him ever since." The hall erupted in confused noise, but Yuna heard none of it. She could only stare at the alien princess standing before her, crying over a man who had been dead for 5 years. Her father had many secrets. It seemed he had taken the biggest one to his grave. 15 years ago, on a frozen planet at the edge of known space, a little girl learned what it meant to be truly afraid. Princess Solhe was only 12 years old. She was traveling in secret, aboard a small royal transport ship, returning from visiting her grandmother on a distant Valari colony. The journey should have been safe. It should have been simple. But space does not care about should. The pirates came out of nowhere. Their ships were fast and hungry, and they tore through the transport shields like paper. The pilot tried to run, tried to hide in the atmosphere of the nearest planet, but it was too late. The ship crashed hard, breaking apart on a frozen mountainside. When Solhe woke up, she was alone. The guards were dead. The pilot was dead. The ship was burning, filling with smoke that made her eyes water and her lungs scream. She crawled through twisted metal and broken glass, cutting her hands and knees, till she fell out onto the snow. The planet was called Nexus 4. It was a lawless place, far from any civilization. Raiders and salvagers picked through the wreckage of ships that crashed here. Nobody came to help. Nobody came to rescue. People who crashed on Nexus 4 usually died on Nexus 4. Solhe did not know this. She was 12 years old, shivering in the snow, watching her ship burn. She had never been cold before. She had never been hungry before. She had never been scared before. She started walking, not knowing where to go. The sun was setting, and the temperature was dropping fast. Her royal robes, designed for climate-controlled palaces, offered no protection against the freezing wind. Within an hour, she could not feel her fingers. Within 2 hours, she could not feel her feet. She was going to die. She understood this with the strange calmness that comes when the body is too tired to panic. She sat down in the snow, closed her eyes, and waited. That was when she heard the footsteps. A human appeared over the ridge. He was young, maybe in his early 20s, with messy black hair and a face that needed shaving. He wore heavy work clothes covered in grease and dust. He carried a bag full of salvage tools. His name was Taiho. But Solhe would not learn this until 15 years later. He stopped when he saw her. His eyes went wide. For a moment, he just stared at the alien child sitting in the snow, silver blue and shivering and clearly dying. Solhe expected him to leave. Why would a human help a Valari? Their species were strangers to each other. There was no alliance. There was no friendship. There was nothing to gain and everything to lose. But Taiho did not leave. He dropped his salvage bag and ran to her. He pulled off his own coat and wrapped it around her small body. He picked her up like she weighed nothing and carried her away from the burning ship, away from the smoke and the cold and the death. Solhei did not understand his words. Human language was strange to her ears, but she understood his actions. She understood his warmth. She buried her face in his chest and breathed in his scent, memorizing it, holding on to it like a lifeline. He smelled like engine oil and old coffee and something else. Something uniquely human. Something warm and alive and safe. Taiho carried her to his shelter, a small cave that he had converted into a temporary camp. It was not much, just some blankets and a heating unit and cans of food, but to Solhei, it was paradise. He set her down by the heater and wrapped more blankets around her. He heated up soup and tried to feed it to her. She could not eat human food. Her body rejected it immediately. But she drank the warm water he offered, and slowly, feeling returned to her frozen limbs. They stayed in that cave for 3 days. Taiho did not speak her language, and she did not speak his. But somehow, they communicated. He showed her pictures on his small data pad. He made funny faces to make her laugh. He sang songs in a language she did not understand. Soft and gentle songs that made her feel like she was home. On the second night, the raiders came. They had tracked the crash site and followed the footprints in the snow. There were 5 of them, armed with weapons that could kill a man in seconds. They wanted the alien girl. A Valari child would sell for millions on the black market. Taiho told Solhei to hide in the back of the cave. He picked up a metal pipe and walked out to meet the raiders alone. Solhei did not see the fight. She only heard it. She heard shouting and gunfire and screaming. She covered her ears and cried. Certain that the human who had saved her was dying, then silence. Taiho came back into the cave. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. His clothes were torn. He was limping badly, but he was alive. He smiled at her and gave her a thumbs up. She did not know what that meant, but she understood the smile. She ran to him and hugged him, and he held her tight, and she breathed in his scent again, and she promised herself she would never forget it. On the 3rd day, the rescue ships finally came. Valari royal guards descended from the sky like angry gods. They had been searching for the lost princess since the distress signal went out. When they found her in a cave with a human salvager, they did not know what to think. They took Solhei away immediately. They wrapped her in medical blankets and carried her to the royal ship. They did not speak to Taiho. They did not thank him. They did not even look at him. As the ship lifted off, Solhei pressed her face against the window. She saw the human standing alone in the snow, watching her leave. He raised his hand in a small wave. She never saw him again. For 15 years she searched. She used every resource available to a princess of the Valari Empire. She looked through records and databases and immigration files. She searched for a human salvager who had been on Nexus 4 during that terrible week, but she never found him. She never learned his name. All she had was his scent, burned into her memory, haunting her dreams. She became cold. She became hard. She buried her emotions so deep that no one could see them. The galaxy called her the Ice Princess, and she let them. It was easier than explaining the truth. The truth was that a human had taught her what kindness meant. A human had shown her that heroes did not need crowns or titles or rewards, and she had never been able to say thank you. Now, standing in the meeting hall of Harmony 7, staring at the daughter of the man who had saved her, Solhei finally understood something. The universe had given her a second chance, and she was not going to waste it. The private chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the space station's life support systems. Yuna sat in a chair that was too big for her, designed for alien bodies much taller than her own. Her feet dangled above the floor like a child's. Across from her stood Princess Solhei, no longer the cold diplomat from the meeting hall. She was pacing back and forth, her silver-blue robes flowing behind her. Every few seconds, she would stop and look at Yuna, then start pacing again. Outside the chamber, the entire summit had ground to a halt. Both delegations were waiting, confused and worried. The Valari advisors were whispering about scandal. The human diplomats were terrified that Yuna had somehow ruined everything. But inside the chamber, none of that mattered. "Tell me about him," Solhe finally said. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. It was so different from the cold voice she had used during negotiations. "Tell me about your father." Yuna did not know where to begin. Her father had been a quiet man. He did not like to talk about himself. He worked long hours and came home tired. He made dinner for her when she was small and helped her with homework when she got older. He was just her father. He was a salvager, Yuna said slowly. He worked on the outer rim, collecting scrap from old ships. It was dangerous work, but he was good at it. He saved enough money to move us back to Earth when I was 7. He wanted me to have a normal life. Solhe listened with her whole body, leaning forward, drinking in every word. Never talked about his time on the rim, Yuna continued. He said those years were hard, and he did not like to remember them. But sometimes, late at night, he would tell me stories. Stories? Solhe asked. Stories about the stars. About the strange things he saw out there. About aliens and planets and adventures. Yuna paused, a memory rising up from somewhere deep inside her. There was one story he told me more than any other. About 3 days on a frozen planet. About a little girl with silver skin who reminded him of starlight. Solhe made a small sound. Something between a laugh and a sob. He said he found her in the snow, Yuna continued, her voice growing thick with emotion. He said she was scared and alone, and he could not just leave her there. He said he did not speak her language, but somehow they understood each other. He said, ... She stopped, unable to continue. What did he say? Solhe whispered. He said he hoped she was okay, Yuna answered. Tears were falling down her cheeks now. He said he never learned who she was, but he thought about her sometimes. He wondered if she was happy. He wondered if she had a good life. Solhe crossed the room in 3 quick steps. She knelt before Yuna's chair and took the human woman's hands in her own. Her silver-blue skin was cool to the touch, but somehow it felt warm. I am here because of him, Solhe said. I am alive because of him. Everything I am, everything I have become, started in that cave on Nexus 4. He did not know who I was. He did not know my father was the emperor of the Valari. He saved me because I was a child who needed help. Nothing more. Nothing less. Yuna looked into those dark alien eyes and saw something she recognized. Pain. Gratitude. Love for a man. She had known for only 3 days, but never forgotten. He never told anyone, Yuna said. He never tried to find you. He never tried to get a reward. I know, Solhe said. That is why I searched for 15 years. A man who saves a princess and asks for nothing is rare. A man who saves a Valari princess when there is no reason to do so, when his own species has nothing to gain. When he could have walked away and no one would have blamed him. That man is not rare. That man is unique. She stood up and turned away, facing the window that looked out at the stars. I became the Ice Princess because I could not find him, Solhe said quietly. I closed my heart because it hurt too much to keep it open. I stopped believing in kindness because I thought the man who taught me kindness was lost forever. She turned back to Yuna, but he was not lost. He was on Earth, raising a daughter, living a quiet life. And now his daughter stands before me, carrying his scent, carrying his blood, carrying everything that made him who he was. Yuna stood up from the chair. She was shorter than the princess, smaller in every way. But in that moment, she did not feel small. He died 5 years ago, she said. Heart failure. He went peacefully in his sleep. I was with him at the end. Solhe closed her eyes. Did he suffer? No. He smiled before he went. He said he had no regrets, and he died as he lived, Solhe said. A good man. A kind man. A man who asked for nothing and gave everything. She opened her eyes and looked at Yuna with an intensity that was almost frightening. I cannot repay him. He is gone, and my debt will never be settled. But I can honor his memory. I can honor his bloodline. I can make sure that the galaxy knows what humanity truly is. She walked to the door of the chamber and paused with her hand on the controls. Your father saved the life of a Valari princess. In our culture, that creates a bond that cannot be broken. A life debt that passes from generation to generation. You are now family to the royal house of the Valari Empire. Yuna stared at her, not understanding. What does that mean? Solhei smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, rusty from disuse, but genuine. It means everything is about to change. For your people, for my people. For the entire galaxy, she opened the door. Come, we have a summit to save. They walked out together, the alien princess and the human diplomat, into a future that neither of them could have imagined. Behind them, the memory of a kind man named Taiho walked with them. Finally getting the recognition he never sought, the Emperor of the Valari was not a man who surprised easily. He had ruled for 300 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had negotiated with species so alien that they communicated through colors and vibrations. Very little in the galaxy could shock him anymore. But when his youngest daughter called him from Harmony 7, he was shocked. He sat in his throne room on the Valari homeworld, surrounded by advisors and generals listening to Solhei tell her story. She told him about the crash. She told him about the human salvager. She told him about 3 days in a cave and 15 years of searching. When she finished, the throne room was silent. You never told me, the Emperor said. His voice was heavy with emotion. All these years you carried this alone? I did not want to burden you with a debt you could not pay, Solhei replied through the communication screen. I thought I would find him eventually. I thought I would repay the debt myself. But he died before I could. The Emperor leaned back on his throne. He was thinking, calculating, weighing the implications of what he had learned. A human saved my daughter, he said slowly. A human with nothing to gain and everything to lose. A human who could have stripped the wreckage for profit and left you to die. Yes, Father. And now his daughter stands before you, representing humanity at our negotiations. Yes, Father. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. His advisors shifted nervously. They knew that look. The Emperor was about to do something dramatic. Cancel the original trade agreement, he said. The advisors gasped. One of them stepped forward. Your Majesty, we cannot simply give the humans what they want. They are a young species. They have not earned equal standing with the Valari. The other empires will think we are weak. The Emperor turned to look at the advisor. His dark eyes were cold. A human walked through fire for my daughter, he said. A human fought raiders alone to protect her. A human sang songs to keep her calm when she was frightened. A human asked for nothing in return, stood up from his throne. If his people raise such a man, then his people deserve more than scraps. They deserve partnership. They deserve respect. They deserve everything we would give to any species that has proven their worth. He walked to the communication screen and looked at his daughter's face. Rewrite the treaty, he commanded. Full partnership with humanity. Equal standing in all trade and diplomatic matters. Access to our medical technology without restrictions. Solhei bowed her head. It will be done, Father. And one more thing. The Emperor's voice softened. Build a memorial. On that frozen planet where he found you, I want his name carved in stone that will last 1,000 years. I want the galaxy to know what one human did when no one was watching. Back on Harmony 7, the human delegation could not believe what was happening. Director Hannah sat at the negotiating table, reading the new treaty proposal over and over again. It was too good. It was impossible. The Valari were offering everything humanity had hoped for and more. This must be a trick, she muttered. There must be hidden conditions. But there were no tricks. There were no hidden conditions. The treaty was exactly what it appeared to be, a gift from the Valari Empire to humanity, given freely and without reservation, Princess Solhe presented the treaty personally. She stood before the human delegation and spoke in a voice that carried throughout the hall. 15 years ago, I was saved by a human named Taiho. He was not a soldier. He was not a diplomat. He was a salvager working the Outer Rim, trying to pay off his family's debts. He had no reason to help me. He had every reason to walk away. She paused, looking at each human face in turn. But he did not walk away. He carried me through the snow. He fought for me. He protected me. He showed me kindness when my own people had failed to reach me. She turned to Yuna, who was standing at the back of the room, still trying to understand everything that had happened. His daughter stands here today, wearing his scent, carrying his legacy. And through her, I finally understand what humanity truly is. Walk to the center of the room. The Valari have lived among the stars for thousands of years. We have met hundreds of species. We have seen empires built on conquest and civilizations destroyed by greed. We have become cold, because coldness protects us. We have become distant because distance is safe. Her voice grew stronger, but humans are different. Humans are warm. Humans are reckless and foolish and brave beyond reason. Humans will risk everything for strangers. Humans will fight impossible battles for people they have never met. Humans will carry frozen alien children through the snow when there is nothing to gain and everything to lose. She raised her hand in a formal gesture. The Valari Empire hereby recognizes the United Earth Coalition. As a full partner species, all barriers to trade are removed. All restrictions on technology sharing are lifted. Humanity is welcome among the stars as an equal. The human delegation erupted in celebration. Director Hannah was crying. The other diplomats were hugging each other. Even the serious military advisors were smiling, but Yuna did not celebrate. She walked forward through the crowd until she stood before Princess Solhe. The alien princess looked down at her with those dark, ancient eyes. "My father would not want this," Yuna said quietly. "He did not save you for rewards. He saved you because it was right." Solhe smiled. "I know. That is exactly why he deserves it." She reached out and took Yuna's hands. In Valari culture, a life debt is sacred. It can never be fully repaid, but it can be honored. Your father gave me my life. I cannot give him anything in return, but I can give his people a future. I can make sure his kindness ripples across the galaxy forever. She squeezed Yuna's hands. This is not a reward. This is a recognition. The galaxy should know that humanity produced a man like Taiho, and if humanity produced one such man, then humanity will produce more. Yuna looked at the celebrating crowd around her. She looked at the treaty that would change human history. She looked at the alien princess who had spent 15 years searching for her father. And finally, she understood. Her father had never wanted fame or fortune. He had just wanted to help a scared little girl. But by helping that one girl, he had helped billions. By saving one life, he had changed the fate of an entire species. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it meant to be Taiho's daughter. 1 year later, under the bright spring sun of Seoul, thousands of people gathered in a new garden built at the heart of the city. Humans stood shoulder to shoulder with Valari, their silver-blue skins shimmering in the light. Children ran between the legs of adults, laughing and playing, not caring that some of their playmates came from different worlds. At the center of the garden stood a statue. It was made of white stone that never faded, and black metal that never rusted. It showed a young man in simple work clothes, carrying a small figure wrapped in his coat. His face was kind. His eyes looked toward the sky. The inscription at the base was written in Korean, English, and Valari. Here, a human proved that courage needs no throne. Taiho of Earth, Savior, Friend, Father, May. His kindness echoed through the stars forever. Yuna stood before the statue, looking up at her father's face. The sculptors had worked from old photographs, and they had captured him perfectly. That gentle smile, those tired but warm eyes, the way he held the child with such careful tenderness, She was wearing a formal dress, silver and blue, the colors of the Vellery royal house. Around her neck hung a medal that marked her as a friend of the Empire, a title that had never before been given to a human. Princess Solhe stood beside her, no longer cold, no longer distant. Over the past year they had become something like sisters. Solhe had visited Earth many times, learning about human culture, trying human food, meeting human people. She said she was trying to understand the species that had produced a man like Taiho. Behind them, the gathered crowd waited in respectful silence. Diplomats from a dozen worlds had come to witness this moment. News cameras broadcast the ceremony across the galaxy. This was not just a memorial unveiling. This was a turning point in history. Are you ready? Solhe asked quietly. Yuna nodded. She was supposed to give a speech. She had written and rewritten it 100 times. But now, standing here, looking at her father's face, she threw away everything she had prepared. She stepped forward to the podium and looked out at the sea of faces. My father was not a hero, she began. At least, he never thought of himself that way. He was a salvager, a worker. A man who fixed broken things and collected scrap from old ships. He never finished university. He never made much money. He never did anything that the world would call important. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But he did something that changed everything. He found a scared little girl on a frozen planet, and instead of walking away, he stayed. He protected her. He kept her warm. He sang her songs in a language she did not understand. She looked at Solhe. He never knew she was a princess. He never knew that saving her would lead to all of this. He saved her because she needed help. That was the only reason. That was the only reason he ever needed. She turned back to the crowd. After he died, I went through his things. I found letters he had written, but never sent. I found journals he had kept during his years on the Rim. And I found something that surprised me. She pulled a small, worn book from her pocket. This is his journal from Nexus 4. He wrote in it every night during those 3 days. And in these pages, I found something he never told me. Something he never told anyone. She opened the book and began to read. Day 1. Found an alien child in the snow. She is so small. Her skin is silver and cold. I do not know if she will survive the night. I do not know what I am doing, but I cannot leave her. How could anyone leave a child to die? Yuna's voice grew thick, but she continued. She is alive. She cannot eat our food, but she drinks water. She does not understand my words, but she understands my smile. I sang her the song my mother used to sing to me. She seemed to like it. I hope I am doing enough. I hope I am not making things worse. Tears were falling freely now, but Yuna kept reading. Day 3. Raiders came last night. I was afraid. I am not a fighter. But when I thought about them taking her, I was not afraid anymore. I did what I had to do. She is safe. That is all that matters. Today's ships came. They took her away. I do not know who she is. I will probably never know. But I hope she has a good life. I hope she finds happiness. I hope she knows that she deserves to be saved. Yuna closed the journal and held it to her chest. That was my father. He hoped she deserved to be saved. As if there was any question. As if any child does not deserve to be saved. She looked at the statue again. The galaxy is vast and old and full of wonders we cannot imagine. There are species out there that have lived for thousands of years, that have technology we can barely understand, that have seen things we cannot dream of. And they look at humanity and they wonder what we have to offer. She gestured at the crowd, at the humans and Valari standing together, at the children playing without fear. This is what we have to offer. This is what my father gave to the stars. Not weapons. Not technology. Not power. Just kindness. Just the simple, stubborn, unreasonable belief that every life matters. That every child deserves to be saved. That every stranger is worth helping. She stepped back from the podium. My father never wanted to be remembered, but the galaxy will remember him anyway. Not because he was powerful, not because he was important, but because he was good, and in the end, that is all that truly matters. Princess Solhay stepped forward then. She spoke in her own language first, then in English, her words carrying across the garden. Adavelari have a saying, "The brightest stars burn the shortest." We have always believed this means that greatness is brief, but I have learned a different meaning. She turned to face the crowd directly. Their lives are short compared to ours, but they do not waste a single moment. They love fiercely. They fight bravely. They help strangers when there is nothing to gain. They carry frozen children through the snow and ask for nothing in return. She placed her hand over her heart in the Valari gesture of deepest respect. The galaxy will remember what we remember. The scent of humanity is the scent of those who choose to be good when no one is watching, and that is why they will outlast us all. Oh! The crowd erupted in applause. Humans and Valari cheering together. A sound that had never been heard before in the history of the galaxy. Eunice stood beside the statue of her father. Watching the celebration, she thought about the man who had raised her. The quiet man who never bragged. The kind man who never stopped helping. The good man who never knew how much he had changed the universe. She placed her hand on the cold stone of the statue. "Thank you, Appa," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." And somewhere in the garden, carried on the spring breeze, she could almost smell it. Engine oil and old coffee and something else. Something uniquely human. Something warm and alive and forever. The scent of her father. Still looking out at the stars, still hoping that the little girl with silver skin was okay, still proving that one person, one act of kindness, one moment of courage could change everything, forever.